Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Saturday morning to you all. I hope you guys are getting up and feeling fantastic out there this morning, having a great start to your day and a great start to your weekend. I got you an update on what's going to happen weather-wise for your Saturday. We'll get you guys all the details you need, but I can tell you there's not a whole lot out there to get very detailed on, except the Pacific Northwest, where we do have a system overhead right now. A lot of folks up there are waking up to a very messy start to your morning, very rainy start, and this will continue throughout the day. You might get a break sometime today, and then another system will move overhead. But we'll get you guys some details on that. How much rain could you guys expect from this? We'll provide the information for that, and then we'll speak on everybody else too, just like we always do. Just because it's quiet, that don't mean we're going to leave anybody hanging here. We'll get you guys some details on what to expect for today. Stay tuned for the second half of the video. Even though speaking on what's going to happen today will be short, we will speak on what's coming up. We're not going to get as detailed as we typically do in the evenings, but we will give you kind of a broad look at what's coming up over the next 1 to 2 weeks from the Climate Prediction Center, and then we'll just talk about the upper pattern and what it supports as far as storm systems. Do we have any kind of big storm systems to watch? Things like that. We'll kind of give you some information on that for the second half of the video, with also a very quick update on the tropics. There isn't much to speak on right now in the tropics, and there might not be anything else to speak on in the tropics for the rest of the 2023 hurricane season, as we are getting not deep in November, but we're getting into a point where we're several days into November at this point. So if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And I just want to say a special thanks to Ann Walker. She donated to the channel yesterday. So thank you, Ann. It's much appreciated. And thank you for anybody else that donates also. If you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, you guys know the deal. Please put those in the comments below. I love seeing it. It seems like more and more people do that. And it's just really awesome to see. It makes me smile. And that other people are praying also. Not just me, but there's so many other people praying also. So prayer is powerful. It's a way to glorify God, and let's definitely do that. So with that being said, my nose is itching very bad right now, and I have no idea why, but here we are. But let's get rolling here. So we take a look at water vapor loop. I think it shows what's going on pretty well. If you noticed this white right here, that means there's higher water content in the atmosphere, more moisture in the atmosphere. You notice how it's kind of going that way, and then it kind of goes up here into Canada, and then it kind of flows down like this. And then it kind of goes like that, and then it goes like this. So this is kind of a trough over Canada up here, and this is a ridge building over the west. So this ridge isn't built quite high enough to where basically these storm systems are going way up into Canada. It is still kind of low enough. It's not built high enough to where you're not avoiding these storm systems in Washington, Oregon, Idaho, even Northern California. But these storm systems are tracking just right into the northwest right now. And we'll see how the jet changes kind of over the next couple of days. And I definitely think it will. And we'll speak on that for the second half of the video. But everybody else, you just kind of got a zonal flow over the middle of the country. And there's still a little bit of a return flow that's there enough for still a chilly start to your morning in the southeast. But right now, just kind of almost a relaxed flow out there aloft. And really the only active weather is in the Pacific Northwest. And we'll speak on what I kind of mean by that here in a second. But let's get all this off your screen. Let's talk about what actually is falling to the ground on our heads out there right now. And you know, there's some of this moisture that's showing out there is not hitting the ground now. It is definitely probably hitting the ground here in Nebraska. We have an area of rain out here, not a big deal at all, but definitely delivering some rain. We got an area of rain right out the coastline of North Carolina. In fact, it might be close enough for the Outer Banks to be seeing some showers as you're waking up to this morning. I think we mentioned that in yesterday morning's video. Some of this is hitting the ground. I don't know if a lot of it is, but you're definitely waking up to some light rain in areas of New York State. Maybe some sprinkles in PA, but I would argue if this is actually hitting the ground, you guys let me know. And maybe some light rain action across the Ohio Valley. But this is definitely hitting the ground out here. Washington and Oregon, as you just have a stout funnel of moisture. And you notice, if you look really close here, let's go on and try to get pretty close. Let's see if we can right here. It looks kind of fuzzy, so we might have to get a little bit closer. Here it is. Come into view. All right, we got to talk nice to it. Here it is. All right, you notice how this rain is moving. Let's get this area up. It's moving like this, and that's what we're talking about. You know, you go back and look at water vapor loop, how all this moisture is moving northeast from the southwest, and it makes sense. So, you know, the ridge is kind of bulged up and up here into Canada, and because all this moisture is kind of south of this ridge axis. This is a warm system, so even in these higher elevations, I mean, you're really struggling to get any snow from this. It's a much warmer system, but a lot of rain continues to funnel into this area of the country. So let's continue to roll here. No risk of severe weather today. You could have some thunderstorms that are possible in South Texas. Here I go again. I haven't done that in a couple months, guys. I meant to say South Florida. You know, Texas, Florida, same thing. I'm just kidding. They're definitely not the same things. For you folks that are new, sometimes I like to call Florida Texas, and I don't know why. It just kind of rolls off the tongue like that. I know the difference between Texas and Florida, but you guys know I'm good for a tongue twister at least every other video. I know I got some people probably cracking up this morning, but a general risk of thunderstorms in South Florida, Miami, surrounding areas. And there is a risk for some rumbles of thunder, maybe some flashes of lightning with this kind of ongoing moisture and convective feed into the Pacific Northwest. We could have this in the form of some storms. So there's a general risk of some thunderstorms. Flash flooding risk, just a marginal risk. You know, I'm kind of surprised that there's no slight risk up, but, you know, I don't know how much rain off the top of my head you guys have seen as of late. I think there is some drought conditions kind of up here in northwest Washington State. And I'm actually about to show you the drought monitor here in a second, which is something we typically don't do, but I'm going to do it in this video. But there is risk for some flash flooding, just a marginal risk in these green areas right here. That's a 5% risk of that. And even here in Miami, watch out. You know, you guys could see a very small risk for some flash flooding. Watches and warnings. Not a whole lot going on. There is some wind alerts here, some high wind warnings. I think that's high wind warnings. Yeah, high wind warnings here along the extreme coastline of Oregon and Washington with some wind advisories also. So there will be some gusty winds as this storm system continues to funnel in. Then some dense fog advisories up here for sections of the northern plains. So, if we take a look at what's going on with this drought, guys, this is becoming a serious deal. I heard, you know, and I'm speaking for my folks here in the Southern Alps region. I know you folks here in the Southeast and certainly in the mountains of North Carolina, Tennessee. Remember this when we had the wildfires in the Gatlinburg area in the fall of 2016. Some people are saying it's more dry in this region right now than it was then. So, you know, I know wildfires is typically a bigger story out west, but sometimes they do happen here in the southeast and the eastern U.S. We need to watch out. You know, you see these areas right here in the red. That is what we call an extreme drought, a D3 drought. But when you get into these burgundy colors right here, which is an extremely dry, kind of dangerous territory, that's what we call an exceptional drought. That's a D4 drought. So it is very dry still. We really need some rain. And, you know, one would argue that it would seem like it's more dry in the Carolinas than what this drought monitor is saying. But, you know, for example, in the Charlotte area, and this was updated October 31st, so just a few days behind, but the Charlotte area is pretty dry. It's in the moderate drought right now, but a lot of the mountains are in a severe drought. And, yeah. And I've heard a lot of people around the Tampa Bay area, I've seen in the comments say, you know, Mitch, we have not received a lot of rain in and around the Tampa area. And sure enough, it shows up on the drought monitor for you guys. If you look really closely right here, there is an extreme drought in areas around the Tampa Bay region. So, of course, we don't want to ignore you folks here in the Midwest. It's pretty dry in Iowa. It's very dry in Southeast. There's an exceptional drought in Southeast areas of Nebraska. It's very dry in Kansas. Dakota's looking okay, but there is very dry conditions up here in areas of Minnesota and northern North Dakota. And look, I mean, you do have an extreme drought ongoing in areas just outside the Seattle region. So I think you guys are starting to make up some of that rain with these systems moving in, but it is technically pretty dry considering. So I want to give you an update. I'm going to start incorporating that into the first parts of these videos, but keep in mind that the drought monitor only comes out, I believe, every 7 days, I think. So it doesn't update every single day, but I will give you updates on it when the new one does come out. I think that would probably be, that would perk some people's interest, and I think it's important to show that. The southeast, guys, pretty quiet. We do have some showers, some scattered downpours in the Outer Banks regions of North Carolina. I think most of this heavy rain will stay offshore with a system just offshore. Could have some sprinkles, some light rain in extreme eastern areas of North Carolina. We certainly could have some showers in South Florida, not South Texas. It's very possible. And maybe some downpours that could grind up against the kind of the southeast coastline of Florida. Very possible, but everybody else, guys, it's dry. It continues to be dry, and that continues to be pretty much the storyline. Is very dry weather. I know we need to rain, guys, but stay tuned for tomorrow evening. I'm going to get detailed on it. I know that a lot of people just talk about the tropics, big time storm systems, and I do too. But we're going to talk about when are we going to get into a rainy pattern. I'm seeing some glimpses of hope for one coming up for our areas here in the deep south. One of the kind of the more baffling things ongoing right now in the weather community during communications and stuff is we're into an El Nino now. And typically in an El Nino, we're supposed to have a active what we call southern jet, which basically means typically we have storm systems that ride south, right overhead, which what I'm basically trying to say is we typically have more chances of rain already. We should already start to be seeing the effects of this, but we're not. But I just have a strong feeling that things are going to flip on a dime. Okay, so we're going to continue to watch this, but we'll get detailed on that. But we'll actually talk about it a little bit in this video too. Up here in the Northeast, I mean, one would argue out of everybody in the central and eastern U.S., probably the Northeast is the most active. But I say active, it's not really active. It's just some light rain. We're dealing with that this morning. And western areas of New York State and around the Erie area, northwest PA. Could have some showers. Some showers or light rain might drift in overnight into the Finger Lakes region, the southern tier of New York. And then we're waking up tomorrow morning with kind of the same situation. Just some light sprinkles, light showers in the Northeast. But nothing to write home about, nothing that's really going to affect anything. The south central U.S., I mean, there's nothing to speak on, guys. There really isn't. Those showers that are kind of, and heavy rain is kind of drifting through Nebraska right now. Will probably make it all the way to Missouri this afternoon. You could deal with some showers just north or around the Kansas City area a little bit later this afternoon. These could drift all the way to St. Louis this evening after cruising across central and north central Missouri. Everybody else, from South Texas all the way up into just the Great Plains, it's pretty quiet. Could wake up to a little shower activity in northeast Oklahoma, southeast Kansas, southwest Missouri, but there's not a whole lot going on out there. Man, my nose will not stop itching. I had this issue about a couple months ago during the middle of my videos. I think it just doesn't like when I talk so much. So might be some allergies too, even though I'm not really feeling under the weather or anything like that. But this morning, some snow showers could get going in northern Minnesota. I would watch out for a dusting of snow. It's quite possible up here in northern Minnesota. These snow showers, or it could be in the form of some sleet, maybe some light freezing rain, could drift into the Duluth area, kind of northern areas of Wisconsin, northwest Wisconsin. And eventually you could get some snow flurries that might fly around here in the areas of the UP and Michigan, northern Wisconsin. But honestly, I mean, that's the only storyline up here. Might dump a dusting of snow in northern Minnesota somewhere, and then another system starts to move in, and this one's even warmer. And we have to watch this one. Another thing we'll talk about tomorrow evening is a storm system I am watching for the Northeast. That if you're a little bit further north, not the big cities, but a little bit further north, you guys could see some winter weather from this. It's quite possible. So we'll talk about that tomorrow evening. But today in the north central U.S., it's pretty quiet. The western U.S., big system overhead right now. Areas are dealing with rain. This moisture is making it all the way across to northern Idaho. It's starting to, later this afternoon, it'll start to make it to western Montana, kind of sink into central Idaho. Some very high elevation snow. But like I said, this is a warmer system. And this rain will make it potentially all the way kind of to North Dakota, which is what I just showed you. So you're waking up to some light rain in North Dakota. But to kind of back it up here and to kind of show you guys in Oregon and Washington a little bit more love here, a little bit later this morning, you are going to have almost a line of storms that makes its way into western Washington, western Oregon. You know, it's not going to be a severe line of storms, but some strong winds could be accompanied by this area of rain. This is around kind of 11 a.m.-ish local time out here. So an area of heavy rain, maybe moving over Medford, Eugene, just went through the Seattle area. And, you know, some rumbles of thunder are possible in northern Oregon here with this, into northeast Oregon, and maybe some rumbles of thunder in Idaho too. And yeah, and then, you know, we're getting into tomorrow morning. It's around 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. You know, some high elevation snow in Idaho and Yellowstone National Park, like the northwest Wyoming area, western Montana is possible. But then if you look right here on this portion of your screen, another system begins to move in for your Sunday, and we're going to be dealing with another soggy day for your Sunday, most likely, with kind of the same similar setup. A lot of rounds of heavy rain and gusty winds moving in. There is, you know, those high wind warnings over there in the coastal regions of Washington and Oregon. So it's some wind advisories. Definitely going to be some breezy conditions, but you guys are pretty much accustomed to that. It's not super unusual by any means, but rainfall between just now and Monday morning. I'm just going all the way out to Monday morning. Some of this has already fell, but guys, I mean, you get the picture. Up against the Cascades, a lot of heavy rain. Got to get very high up there for this to fall in the form of snow, but for a lot of folks, it'll just be rain. But several inches of rain is possible. A little bit of a rain shadow in between these higher elevations for Seattle, but I mean, still a good inch of rain at least. Same thing here between the Cascades and the higher elevations of Idaho, right here in central Washington State and Oregon. I mean, not as much rain, but you guys will certainly still see just cloudy and dreary conditions. But a lot of rain is going to fall up against the western sections of Washington and Oregon and northwest areas of California, where multiple inches of rain could fall. We go on and take it to our folks here like in Idaho. And I can't find Idaho. Hey, you guys, why am I in the cities? Yeah, I'm in the cities. I'm supposed to be in the states here. Idaho, between now and Monday morning, you know, a good 1 to 2 inches of rain from northern Idaho all the way to central Idaho. Okay, same thing for western Montana, but a little bit less. I think that the lift from up against these higher elevations are going to provide more moisture for you folks. But for these lower elevations, I mean, you know, maybe 1/10 to 1/2 inch of rain is possible. So, yeah, guys, that's pretty much it for any kind of weather for today for the lower 48. But temperatures, you're starting to warm up in the northeast, 40s and 50s. Southeast, 60s and 70s, nice conditions, beautiful day. We just need rain. It's a beautiful day, but we do need the rain. So it's kind of hard, you know, you kind of have to take it for what it is, but we could, I mean, I would take just a washout of a weekend to really put a dent in this drought, but warming up well into the Mid-South, the Ohio Valley, getting into the 60s, even some low 70s. I mean, even a little bit above average for the Midwest, 50s and 60s, but definitely some chilly air kind of locked into the UP, Wisconsin, northern areas of Minnesota. You know, will not get above freezing with some snow showers that are possible in this area. Texas, pleasant, 70s and 80s. You're getting into the western U.S., above average temperatures for just about everybody. This is why this is a warmer system. But, you know, with a ridge that's really built over this region right here, this is a warmer system moving into the Pacific Northwest. So above average temperatures for just about anybody. If you got any snow left on the ground from that system over a week ago, heck, what has it been, like 7? I don't even know how many days it's been. It's been at least a week ago. That brought all the snow for the northern Rockies and the high plains. It's definitely going to get its melt on today if it hasn't already melted. So that's it for today. A quick update on the tropics. We've been talking about this a little bit over the last several days. Invest 97L. It never developed into a named storm, which would have been Vince, but kind of the leftovers of this will drift into Central America, bring some showery conditions, and honestly, I don't see anything else to worry about in the short to medium term. The GFS keeps liking the idea of some kind of crazy. It keeps showing it on and off, a hurricane in the Caribbean like 2 weeks from now. But, oh, here we go. Here goes the sneeze. But until it works its way into until there's some consistency with models and it works its way into the medium range, which I consider like 7 days out, it's just not worth talking about. A lot of people will try to hype it up, but there's no point in doing that. There really isn't. So let's take a peek, a very quick look at what potentially is coming up. This is the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, November 9th through the 13th. That was issued yesterday. It's kind of a weird look, right? I mean, you got above average temperatures in the north central and northern plains, a chance for above average temperatures, I would say, but everybody else in kind of the gray is near normal. I do think the Northeast could have an opportunity to just stay consistently cool because you're nosed out enough that where you'll be affected by some troughing that comes out of Canada, some cold fronts that will just really affect the Northeast. So we got to watch out for like Maine, the interior Northeast for some winter weather. We do, just because you guys are nosed into the cold air. And I'm not talking about like Boston, Long Island, New York City, really. I'm talking about the inland areas. And we'll speak on that a little bit more tomorrow night. But it looks like the Southeast is going to get more to above average temperatures. And that's what we do, guys. I mean, I would say it's like that any time of the year. Except summer where it's just, consistently hot just about everywhere, especially in the South. But, in the South, for example, in the cooler months, that's what we do, guys. We go from below average temperatures to above average temperatures, back to below average temperatures. And if any temperatures are going to dominate the pattern, okay, it's probably going to be above average temperatures. If there's going to be any kind of longevity to a pattern just in general, it'll be a pattern that supports above average temperatures. That's just the nature of the beast. That's just how it is. And a ridge is a very stubborn upper air pattern that is hard to shake. It really is. So, people are freaking out just because, it's November and above average temperatures are coming up. Don't freak out if you're a big winter weather fan. Whatever it does in early November has nothing to do with what happens in December, January, and February. It does not. I try to preach that on social media, things like that. And, people, yeah. So just because we're getting to a little bit above average temperatures in November, that doesn't mean that winter is over. Does not mean that. So a little glimmer of hope there. But the good news is, guys, the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, I mean, we haven't seen this in a while, is look, there is a slight chance of above average precipitation in this same time period. The 9th through the 13th of November, I mean, look at the green. There's a slight chance. It's leaning to above average scenario of precipitation. So is that a sign that this southern jet is about to get going? But, for the cooler weather fans, bad news again. 11th through the 17th takes us all the way through about mid-November. It's looking like above average temperatures are going to dominate a lot of the country, except maybe the Northeast. Okay? But the good news is there is a chance for, the good news is for once, there's no chance of below average precipitation. There's a chance of above average precipitation. And I can tell you from the 11th to the 17th, this is starting to look more so like that El Nino look, where the southern jet down here begins to get active and we start to have storm systems that kind of flow through a little bit further south. So one thing I want to show you guys, and this is something that might confuse people, but I'm going to try to explain it the best way I can and ask questions if you need to. So this is what the winds look like in knots, and don't focus too much on that. Honestly, this is the time where I tell you to focus on the pretty colors, like the vibrant oranges and reds and things like that. So this is winds and knots at about 250 millibars in height. So that when you equate that to feet, that's around 34,000 feet up in the air. So the jet stream sits, jet stream meaning basically where these storm systems track. Okay, wherever the jet stream is setting up, that is where that L that you see on the maps is going to track, most likely. Okay, sits about 30-ish thousand feet up in the air. So looking at this is a great way to figure out where the jet is. So we look at it this morning, and it lines up pretty well, guys. If you look right here on your screen, you see how the lines, the arrows, kind of the streamlines are going way up here in Canada, and then they're buckling down here. And that is the exact flow. We just showed you what's going on in Washington and Oregon. You got moisture, okay, that is moving just like this. It's following that avenue. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to get any moisture going across this area. Okay, and that's what I'm saying. You follow that L for the most part, but just wherever the L is, that doesn't mean that's only where the precipitation is, like the actual center of low pressure. You got moisture to the north of it and moisture to the south of it. Okay, hope that makes sense. So where I'm trying to head at, guys, is, let's see if we got this in motion. As we move in the future, and this is the European model, okay, this ridge that you're seeing, and this is a great indicator of where the ridge is too. You see these streamlines that are going way up here, and then they kind of go like that. This indicates a ridge too. But if we continue to go into this weekend, and then we get into next week, you see how this is going just straight across your screen? This is a beautiful example of what we call a zonal flow. There's no real buckles in the jet stream at all, indicating there's no huge ridge necessarily, and there's no huge trough. Okay, this means that you're likely not going to have any extreme weather going on in the lower 48 next week. You're not going to have any extreme temperatures one way or the other. No big storm systems. Now, this does favor a pretty substantial moist flow into like California. So we need to watch out for an atmospheric river kind of scenario going on to areas of the west. And we'll speak on that too here in the coming videos. But as far as any kind of vigorous storm systems, you're not going to see it. And you start to get into midway next week, you continue to see it. And if you notice it, this is kind of buckling a little bit like this. Okay, so this tells me there's going to be ridging probably over the southeast, which indicates above average temperatures. And you continue to go here, you see, a little bit of a trough dig right here. And you start to get into next weekend, and it still looks pretty zonal. It's going like this and then like this, but for the most part, there is no huge dips in the jet stream. It's just a zonal, what I would call boring flow. Very boring weather, and I know some people are saying, Mitch, boring is good. I hear you. But you go 10 days out, which, you get anything past 10 days, and it's not a very reliable time frame. So there's no point in going any further than that, but it really indicates a very zonal flow out there, which means, like I've said, no crazy weather that's coming up. I really don't think so. We'll continue to watch this. What can we expect from this? We'll speak on that tomorrow evening. Of course, I have the video tomorrow morning. I want to have a video this evening. Me and my little girls are going to the South Carolina football game. Very excited for that. It's their second game of the year. So no video tonight, but you guys have a great day. That's all I got. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for the support during the slower times. It means the world. And you guys have a great start to your weekend.